Welcome to the MMA Podcast. Oh, wait. I don't really know what's going on here. We got double intro music going on right now for some reason. Alright, let's do it again.
When in doubt, do it twice.
Oh, there we go. Hi guys, what was going on? I am an idiot, and I had the link for the pod up in another tab, so I literally was hearing the episode play back. What a graceful way to start the podcast. How's it going, Chris?
Idiot. I'm doing great.
We'll just pretend like the intro music went on. If you want to hear the intro, you can listen to one of the 4 previous podcasts. Thanks to Eddie Bravo for letting us use his song, Jiu-Jitsu by Smoke Serpent, which I just horribly butchered up. Thanks to Mark Hominick, actually, who's going to be on about an hour at 11, and of course our listeners who somehow put up with this bullshit. How you doing, Chris?
Oh man, I'm doing great. You know what? Let me tell a little story real quick. I'll keep it nice and short. I work at a movie theater, and usually it's just a real chill job, great people, management's great. But recently there was a barbecue that I missed where a water balloon fight took place, and essentially what happened was some lady across the way complained about it, called the cops, everyone got suspended, so now the gap has to be filled by this cunt of a human being named Andrew. The guy comes in, he's a ginger, out of shape, and, never asks you how you're doing, never says a nice thing. It's just criticism from beginning to end, and I've had to work with that guy for the last 2 days, and it just feels amazing to be home, not being there and doing this pod and sharing the time with y'all. So good to be home. Good to be doing this.
Good to be home. Good to be doing the podcast. Shout out to our partners, MMA Mental. Go hit up MMAmental.com, run by Ray and Jay. They post up some awesome stories. They definitely have very opinionated views on the sport. They have James Thompson as a guest writer over there, so it's a great site. And, of course, the MMA Playground. That's MMAplayground.com. Best forum in mixed martial arts.
Can I make a joke real quick? If Josh or if Thompson, what's his name? First name? Sorry.
The Colossus.
Colossus Thompson. If he ever quits that job, right before he leaves the office, he's gonna go, "It's going down the fucking toilet."
Yeah, if you're unfamiliar with his post-fight rant after, I think, KSW, 2 or 3, he lost the controversial decision, snatched the mic from the announcer, and started screaming, "KSW is going down the fucking toilet!" To our friends Ray and Jay for absolutely butchering a British accent. And I guess to the Colossus as well. If we offended you, I'm sorry. Please don't come to America and beat me.
If you put their names together, it's Ray J, the infamous black guy that banged.
That made Kim Kardashian famous. Yeah, what a bizarre way to rise to fame. Bang Ray J and then get a TV show. It's like Seinfeld doing nothing, but I guess without the jokes. But
good point. And
yeah, I just wanted to shout out real quick. Call us at 646-378-1046. If you want to tell us about your shitty job, tweet us at the MMA Podcast or visit our website, obviously, themmapodcast.com. Hi, Chris.
Oh, no, I was going to make a dumb joke about how we're kind of, on hard times right now. We should just let Ray J bang us and we'll get a show. But I'm not going to do that joke. I'm not going to do it.
Definitely don't do that joke. I would not advise you tell all of our listeners that you'd want to bang Ray. But yeah, you were talking about your job, and we were talking a little bit about a story, and I stopped you. I was like, save it for the pod. Before we go into 148, which we're going to have absolutely no problem breaking down for a while tonight, definitely tell us about that story of embarrassment.
Oh, yeah, definitely, yeah. basically what happened was today I went into work and everything was great, and then I don't know, I just got this real sick feeling in my stomach, like something bad's gonna happen. Yeah. So I'm like, oh, I gotta go. And the thing is that you can't, when you're at that position, you're stuck there unless you get someone to cover you. Like if there's extra people, we call them floats, they'll come over and cover you. So I got on the walkie and there's no one around, and I just hit the button and went, I need to poop. My boss came up to me like, what the hell, dude? I was like, all right, I'm sorry, but I really got to go. I got to make. So she's like, all right, I'll cover you. And I went into the bathroom. Right when I went in there, a movie got out. So a bunch of people came in, and I am in the midst of an explosive shit, just fart and then shit, fart and shit. And a bunch of people came in, surrounded me, and every stall is taken up, and every single urinal is taken up. And I'm just sitting here like, I got really embarrassed. I don't get embarrassed about anything, but for some reason, pooping publicly gets me every time. So essentially, I got stage fright, and I actually literally put my headset on and started playing one of our old episodes and just went to work, and I could hear laughing over the pod.
It's definitely got to be pretty frightening. A movie lets out, you have 100 dudes who've been holding it for 2 hours. All of them need to use the restroom. I'm sure that room gets filled up pretty quickly.
Yeah, I was considering just stopping and doing it later, but I literally just had poop about to leave my butt with a fart behind it. I'm like, you know what? It's either now or never, so I just went for it.
Pooping on the job is one of the best ways to take a break. You get a nice break from the action, and luckily lately I've had more of a fibrous diet, so it hasn't been too noisy, but
Jake, we have literally lost all credibility in the last 2 minutes. Essentially what just happened is live listeners went from like 30 people, 20, 10, 0.
0. Exactly. Actually, you know what? I just got a message from Mark Hominick. We were planning on having him on in about an hour, but he said it would work better for him if we called him up now. So we are going to do that.
Woo, man. Oh, okay. Gotta think on the feet.
Yeah, UFC featherweight Mark Hominick. I'll get to it with him when we get on the phone with him, but in my opinion, closest fighter in the UFC to defeat the champion Jose Aldo, which, that last round he had against him was so impressive. Definitely going to get to him on that, and let's call him up.
Exciting times.
Hello, no one is available to take your call.
Mark, are you trolling us?
Mark's trolling us hard.
Let's leave him a message.
I'll just try to call. If you'd like to call us, the number is, and I'm giving him the same exact number that we actually give you guys, the fans, to call in and be a part of the show. So definitely we want to have people do that as much as often. 646-378-1046. So let's see if we can get Mark to call in right now. I'll actually try him one more time. See if we can get Mark on the horn.
Where'd that saying come from anyways, on the horn? Sounds very cowboy.
Give new school technology here.
Hello, no one is available to take your call.
Oh.
All right, I think we should just go into a bit of news and then try him back later. Maybe we called too soon.
Yeah. Mark actually tweeted us right as the podcast started, right as we got into the thick of our BM rant. He had tweeted us, which the first thing that went through my mind was, oh God, I hope he isn't listening right now. But he tweeted me asking if we could call him now instead of an hour. Definitely big thanks to Mark Hominick. He's over on the East Coast, and it's pretty late. It's already 10:10 over there. We were planning on having him on at 11 p.m. So definitely big thanks for him to go out of his way.
Is he up in Canada? Or is
he lives in Ontario. He in my opinion is one of the top 3 faces of Canada MMA. You have GSP, you have Rory McDonald, a big up and comer. But as far as title shots go, Mark Hominick fought Jose Aldo, and he fought him good.
He fought a real good fella.
He fought a real good fella, and definitely tough. He's lost his last 3, 2 of which to who are, in my opinion, 1 and 2 at the featherweight division in Jose Aldo and Chan Sung Jung, and he also lost a split decision, which I think could have gone either way, to Eddie Yagan. Yagan. Let's.
Yagan.
You gonna try him one last time?
You know what's interesting about Mark? Maybe I should wait till he's on. Yeah, I'll wait.
Hello, no one is available to take your call.
Okie dokie.
Please leave a message after the tone.
That's strange. I'll send him
Maybe he called in and he was inspired to take a shit while he heard our story. Maybe he's he gave wrong number actually. So let me just hang up on him. So I'll take over from here while you figure that out. Okay. So yeah, guys, how about them Dodgers doing real well? I don't know anything about regular sports, but apparently they're doing real good. And it's the one time in life that you can actually go, how about them Dodgers?
How about them damn Dodgers?
We should have some. You know what we should have? We should have pre-recorded segments that we can just play when this stuff happens.
Hello.
Hey, Mark, what's up? Sorry about that.
Oh, no problem. My wife's sleeping with my baby, and she's called me 7 times saying that the house number's ringing. We're all listening. We're all listening live.
Oh God.
Oh no. Oh no.
So.
It's all good. It's all good.
Oh, wow. Well, thank you so much again for coming on so late. And
hey, no problem, brother.
We are tremendously embarraed for calling your house and
that
it was
my fault.
And hearing our rant about BMs at work.
It was funny because we were all listening live, and I'm like 4 houses down from my house.
Oh, God.
Yeah, and I'm like, oh, God, how do I get over there? And my wife called me. She's like, oh, the phone's ringing off the hook.
Yeah, I'm using a weird Twitter interface where it doesn't show you DMs.
It's all good. It's all good.
Right.
She just has to work in about 6 hours. So.
All right. Well.
So I'll have to feel the wrath of that.
Well, dude, thank you so much for coming on.
Hey, no problem.
And talking MMA with us. The first thing I wanted to ask you about, like I was saying before, we have this Chael Sonnen Anderson Silva fight. Chael Sonnen really the only one to test Anderson Silva, and I think you're kind of like that. You're the only one who's really tested Jose Aldo, and like Sonnen did, you got Aldo on his ass, and you were beating him down. What changed in that fight exactly that gave you the upper edge toward the end?
You know what? That was a fight that I in my opinion, I felt I just got to show every aspect of, who I am as a fighter and as a person. I got to, go in the trenches, show the last 15 years of my life in that ring. The Anderson and Chael fight is definitely a lot different. There's a lot more emotion. I think that definitely plays a big role in a fight is the emotion that you bring to the cage. The one thing I always bring to the cage is I want to win. And I don't care who I'm fighting. With Aldo, he's just like guy everyone kind of built up to be, indestructible and, no one could touch him. And I knew every man's beatable. And that's the kind of mentality I went in there with. And I think that's what Chael brings to the cage as well.
Hey, Mark, Chris here, man. First off, I just want to say it's an honor for me to talk to you. I've been watching you since I think the first fight I saw of yours was when you triangled Eve Edwards back in the day. What was that? UFC 58, something like that.
58, so, yeah. Yeah, well, I appreciate
it's an honor to be talking to you, sir.
Hey, both
I just
ways.
want to say, it was amazing. UFC 129, I ordered the pay-per-view at my place, and I had a bunch of friends over. And in that fifth round, when you took them down and you started lighting them up, I shit you not, I leapt up, and I was like, yeah, get him! And I yelled so loud that my roommate was downstairs, outside, and a block away walking up with groceries and heard me. So that was an amazing moment for me in MMA. That was just great to see you rally back in front of your hometown crowd.
Yeah, but you know what? In history, if you look back at the history of not just MMA, but fighting in general, those fights come up and you remember them for the rest of your life. And that's definitely a moment I'll always remember. But I have to remember one thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
When it all comes out, I lost that fight. So that's something that still burns inside of me. I want to be a world champion, and I don't want to be remembered for being a great fighter in a fight I lost.
Yeah, but I got to give it to you, man. Like Jake said, just great performance, and
I appreciate it, but.
Chael recently was on the Rogan podcast, and he said 25 minutes is just too hard on the human body to fight. It's too much, and your nickname is the Machine. You're known for your cardio.
Yeah, but I've done that a few times. But I've done that a few times. The thing is like the guys who have been in the sport for a long time, they've experienced those situations. Like I've experienced the fourth and fifth rounds many times, and those are the type of fights that I love. I love being in a situation where, like, you look at your opponent and you look at them and you say, "Who wants it more?" I think that's where I win every fight I get in there. If you look at my loss record, they're all in the first round, right? So that's something I think I have to change. I have to come out a little stronger and show who I am right away.
Yeah, definitely. You're unfortunately on a 3-fight losing streak, but like I said earlier, 2 are to who I believe are the number 1 and number 2 guys in the division, and the third I think was one that could have gone either way. Your fight with Eddie won fight of the night. I was wondering, I looked it up. I didn't see if you're scheduled against anyone next, and if you aren't, who would you like to face? I was thinking two guys in the same division also coming off losses, Dustin Poirier and Ross Pearson. Both of them would be interesting stylistic matchups. Who'd you have in mind?
To tell you the truth, like I wanted to get a rematch with Eddie Ogden because I think I won that fight. Like going into that, but again, like that's judging, that's MMA, it's combat sports. It's like you have to deal with it. This is a judging sport. It's such a like objective view of like, okay, this is what I think wins. I thought I won, but if I'd have won, his fans would be saying the same thing. Right? So
definitely.
And the UFC also has a rule is like if you came off a loss, you have to fight someone who came off a loss as well.
Yep.
So, Poirier I think would be a great fight. Pearson would be a great fight, but whoever they give me, I've never been a guy to shy away from an opponent, back down. I'm ready to go.
Yeah, that's the same way you fight too. Like Chris said before, your nickname is the Machine. I also wanted to ask. I said earlier, if you were listening live, I'm sure you heard it. I think you, GSP, and Rory McDonald are really the 3 faces of Canadian MMA, which I really think Canada and Brazil are probably the 2 biggest countries as far as being enthused for mixed martial arts. What is it like? Our Twitter follower at Grand Ben Surfer wanted to know, how cool it is to live in the town you grew up in. I'm sure it's awesome, and I'm sure you're recognized all the time.
Well, you know what, the thing is with here in Canada, right, there's not a huge number of top elite athletes, right? And for me, I felt UFC 129 was a coming out party for me. I'd fought for almost 10 years as a professional, almost under the radar. and all of a sudden I'm showcasing the biggest crowd of all time, UFC, 55,000 people, in my home province, an hour and a half away from where I grew up, and I got the opportunity to put on that kind of fight. So, it was almost like I got shoved into the limelight. So for me, it was like a learning experience because I've never been about that. I don't want to be famous. I don't want to be none this or that. I just want to fight,
Yeah,
but it's
definitely.
nice to see. It's nice to know that, like, my local town's proud of me, my province, my country, to the point where, like, I moved back to where I grew up. I live in a town of 2,000 people.
Yeah. Yeah.
And, I live around the corner from my mom.
That's awesome.
I live with my mom, Mark, so it's all good. I feel it.
Well, I don't know if you should be bragging about that.
You know what? All right. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I wanted to ask too. As far as guys fighting in their own hometown, your walkout to 129 was probably one of my favorites. What inspired you to pick that song, and what was it like walking out to a crowd of your friends, family, your hometown crowd?
Like one thing, like Sean Tompkins, my trainer, passed away. He always told me, he's like, if you're worrying about what music you're coming out to, you're in the wrong sport. Like he just wanted to be focused on the fight, right? Yeah. But I heard that song, and I was just like, it's so fitting. Like, I'm coming home. It was the first opportunity I've ever got to fight in my home province. I've been fighting for 10 years professionally, and I just thought it was so fitting. And it hit home with so many people. People still talk about that today, and it was a pretty cool feeling, But looking back at the fight, I don't remember the entrance. I don't remember nothing, just the fight.
Yeah, a lot of people say that, the adrenaline's pumping through your body, and one of the side effects of adrenaline is you lose all the memory from what happened while your veins are coursing with it.
Yeah. It's the same thing. Because, like, after the fight, I came home, and all I thought was disappointment because I lost the world title. Like, I had the world title and I lost it, right?
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, for the next, I would say 3 weeks, my phone wouldn't stop ringing.
I bet.
Like, it was kind of, no, but it was like a Canadian thing. Like, just like locally, all across Canada, like, people rallied behind me, and I was like, wow, it was something special. So then I watched the fight again, and, I was like, wow, maybe it was, but all I seen is I lost that fight.
Yeah, losing a fight's really got to be one of the toughest things to go through, other than losing a loved one or something like that. But as far as that UFC 129 went, Jose Aldo has taken apart so many people. My impression driving home from the bar after I watched UFC 129, honestly, was, God, Mark Hominick is a motherfucker. You put it to him at the end of that fight. That was awesome.
Yeah, but I'll tell you one thing. You ever seen the movie Cool Hand Luke?
Oh yeah.
Oh, of course.
Well, you're never going to break him. Never going to break me either.
Hey, Mark, I got kind of a two-part question for you. Number one, who is the baddest dude that you've ever fought? The toughest SOB, not skills-wise, but just a guy that could take it and dish it out. And number two, Yves Jabouin, you guys finally fought at WEC 49, and I heard there was some kind of rivalry between you guys. You guys are supposed to fight in TKO. It never shaped up. So what was it like finally stepping in the octagon against that guy?
Well, the Yves Jabouin, I'll go hit that question first, the Yves Jabouin fight. We came up in rival promotions in Quebec, and we were both saying we were the Canadian champions. Like, each promotion, it'd be like UFC and Pride. Like in Quebec. And Quebec had the biggest promotion. That's where GSP, George St. David Wiseau, all those guys came out of, Patrick Cote, right? That's where I was, and I was a champion. Jabouin was in another promotion, and they said he was the best, he would whoop me, blah, blah, blah. That fight never happened, right? And then finally it happened in WC, but in Edmonton, in Canada. So we looked at it like, okay, we're fighting for the Canadian title right here. And I would have died on the cross, for that fight. Like any fight, but like, there's no way he's beat me.
So you guys were looking at, figuring out who the baddest dog was in Canada, and you guys didn't get the fight in Canada, if I'm not mistaken, but you guys...
No, he fought in Edmonton, in Canada.
Oh, you did? 49 was in Canada?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
That's what made it so special. Yeah, that's what made it so special, right? It's just like...
What a great fight, too. Stephan Bonner, was it Stephan or was it Frank that was commentating? I can't remember, but they were just going apeshit over that fight and watching it live, too.
It was a great fight, and just, like, being in Edmonton, like, there was 5,000 people there, right? Mm-hmm. And coming up, UFC, on the 21st of July, is in Calgary, which is in Edmonton. To be 4 times that. I guarantee there's a louder crowd in Edmonton. It was it was an awesome fight.
Who's the toughest SOB you ever fought? Because I looked at your record and you fought the who's who, Hatsu Hioki twice, Mike Brown. Everyone in your Zuffa run has just been, cream of the crop. Who's the guy that really sticks out in your mind as just a tough guy?
Well, as soon as I hear Hioki's name, I like to fight him in my backyard.
You don't like that guy?
No, I like him to the point where I got respect for him. Like, we've been in some wars. We fought 5 rounds. We fought for the title. That's the guy I want to fight again.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, Mark. It's been a couple months since your last fight, and I guess you haven't been paired up against your next opponent yet. I'm sure you're definitely enjoying your time off with your wife and your baby. And sorry again for disturbing them and daughter. But I was wondering if you were back in training camp or you were enjoying taking time off still, what stage you were in as far as preparing for your next fight.
Well, I own a gym with Sam Stout and Chris Rodecki, so I'm always in the gym every day.
Yeah.
So this is my passion, I can't live or breathe a day without being in the gym.
Yeah, I was going to ask, too, what is it like owning a gym? And is it focused more on trying to get a lot of people in to exercise, or is it more of an MMA-style training gym?
You know what? I would say about 80% of the people in our gym are all fitness-oriented.
Yeah.
The one thing that I would say I'm most proud of is the kids program.
And what does that entail?
Well, there's a huge issue with bullying and, like, self-confidence issue with kids.
Yeah.
Right? And that's always been a focus of mine. We've got 60 kids in our program right now, and we have a report with the schools that they go to school, and we get reports from all the schools every day, how they're doing, and it's all been positive. And it's a rewarding feeling, just knowing that you're making an impact on some of these kids.
Yeah, man. It's good to see you, work with youth and whatnot. And I actually remember when I was about 6 or 7, our family had a farm up in Canada, and I couldn't tell you which province. It was near one of the Great Lakes.
Are you kidding me? One of the Great Lakes.
Yeah, I'm sorry, man.
That doesn't stretch too far.
It was a lot. I'm 25. This was, 20 years ago, something like that. But I remember going out there, and it's a vivid memory for me because it was just not only a beautiful place, but the people is what really stand out to this day. I remember people inviting us in for dinner, and we had just met them, just amazing people. And you kind of come off as one of the nicest guys in MMA.
So I'm not trying to be anything.
Oh, I know that. It's natural for you. But it's kind of cool just to see, because you see a lot of these tough guys, you know, like the Diaz brothers. It's fun to watch, but I mean, you wouldn't want to hang out with them. I'd love to buy. But again,
yeah, we definitely come from a different world, and like I said, I'm looking across from my mom's house right now.
Uh-huh.
You know, this is where I said. What's that? You're in your mom's basement? Is that what you said?
Oh, no, I said I'm looking at my mom right now.
I can believe it. You're in her basement, aren't you?
Oh, man, when did this turn into picking on Chris Day? Dang it.
Right on.
Hey,
so,
you mess up the Great Lakes, the machine's going to get on you, man. Come on.
Yeah. No, I fish on the Great Lakes, so don't mess those up.
Yeah, I guess before we let you go, we have one more listener question, sure. And it's just kind of what exactly got you into mixed martial arts? You know, my grade 9 gym class. Yeah.
They went to a local martial arts studio.
Mhm.
And I've never trained martial arts, nothing. They went to, like a first day trial 1 week, and I signed up that night. And within 2 weeks, I was competing.
Wow. Yeah, it always makes you wonder. You know, a nice guy like yourself. Most nice, nice intelligent people don't think, you know what? I'm gonna make a living off of beating other guys in the face. But you do it, and you do it extraordinarily.
Well, I appreciate that. I've had to prove that point for many years. But you know what? What's a great point? This year, I got my MBA from Windsor University in business.
Yeah, wow.
Congratulations, man.
And then this year, they put me on the university honor roll. They said,
nice.
Mark Hominick went here for business. As well as the president of GM Motors.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so GM I think is failing. So I guess I win that battle, right?
Yeah, definitely. I would buy Mark Hominick stock way before I would buy any GM stock.
Perfect. So we're sold.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Mark, you are.
So anyone listening, send a message at University of Windsor. Say we
do it.
GM sucks. Mark Hominick is a bonus for the school.
You got to put Mark one over the GM guy, because I would much rather buy a stock and a Hominick. I mean, I don't see how you don't roll off an impressive win streak now, because I truly think you are one of the top 5 guys in the division, and you're about to prove it.
Yeah. Right now I'm back to a point where I got it back on the winning streak.
Yep.
That's it.
And
getting a win.
Thank you so much, Mark. You are a class act. We
terrorized
terrorized your household, and you smiled.
If you woke my baby up, I'll kill you.
Oh God. I'm going to make sure to lock my door tonight, I guess.
All right.
Hey, Mark, I'll tell you what, buddy. Tonight, when I'm sleeping in the basement, I'm going to put your picture up on the wall and make sure to make it a point to get out of my basement and move out on my own in 2013, buddy. You're going to be my inspiration every time I look at your face.
I hope to God you get out of your mom's basement tonight.
Tonight?
Yeah.
Quick, Mark.
Start sleeping on the street. Get some confidence.
All right, bud. You know what? I'll tell you what. I'm gonna get shredded for you, buddy.
Follow Mark at Mark Hominick, MarkHominick. You have any more shout-outs before we let you go?
No, just I totally love what I do, and I appreciate all the fan support.
Yeah, you're truly one of the coolest guys in the game to talk to. I very much thoroughly enjoyed this interview, man.
Well, thank you very much.
All right, we'll talk to you later, man. Thanks a lot.
All right. See you later. Bye-bye.
And that was Mark Hominick. Huge thanks to Mark Hominick. I was absolutely beat red when we got him on, and he told us that I had called his home phone like 3 times and potentially woke up his wife and baby, in which case I'm going to die. And
I'll
also,
tell you what, Mark thinks I'm a beta, and I don't live in my mom's basement. I pay half the rent, and I live in my own room. I want everyone to know that.
I also want everyone to know that I live on my own, and I'm the alpha of this podcast.
Oh, my God. Wait, what?
What? No, definitely also moving to Chicago in a month from Gainesville, Florida, which is going to be a very, very needed change of scenery. I try not to talk about myself too much on the pod, but I'm definitely enjoying thinking about that move. And again, huge thanks to Mark Hominick for encouraging Chris to move out of his theoretical basement.
Yeah,
and
lecturer's basement, with no lights. It's dark and dank and it's creepy. Yeah, I'm gonna move out of that.
And God, it's hard. It is really hard to believe he's lost his last 3, but he did fight the top 2 guys in the division, and the third one I think won. So it's going to be really fun to see him storm back up the division, and I would not be surprised in the least if he got another title shot in the next couple of years.
Right. Before we move on, big thanks and shout out to Mark Hominick. Thanks for being on the podcast. Thank you, Mark. I appreciate you dogging me. Love you, dude.
Hey, dude, you cannot mess up a Great Lake and expect a Canadian to not dog you. Come on, man.
I didn't mess it up. There's 5 of them.
There's 5 of them.
Am I supposed to know all of them?
Oh, we have a caller, and let's see who we got on live. Our first is this our first listener call? We've had 7 This is our first non-UFC fighter we've had on the podcast. Hello there.
Hello, guys. Just want to say awesome podcast. Huge fan of it. This is Anthony calling in from Arizona, and I was wondering if you guys heard what Chael Sonnen made a statement about in MMA Junkie, saying that he believes any fighter that forfeits a fight, whether it be injury-related or personal reasons, that it should be counted as a loss. What do you think about that?
I'll take that first. First off, Anthony, you say you're from Arizona, but do I detect a Chicago accent?
Yeah, it sounds like you're from the Chicago area.
I was born in Chicago and lived there for 4 years. Yes.
Boom! Score 1 for MMA Podcast.
Score 1 for the Lowenstein.
So, Chael Sonnen says something crazy. Is that news? Is it really news? I think that's beyond ridiculous. Fighters get injured just because he's blessed with a good training regimen and doesn't get injured ever. I think that's just a testament to the way he trains. Trains smart, not hard. Some people, it's just, it's luck of the draw. You could get hit by a car walking down the street, but maybe you go your whole life without getting hit by a car. Injuries happen. It's definitely inevitable, and I'll tell you what. Since the UFC has implemented insurance program, healthcare, there's a lot more people pulling out of fights because they don't have to risk it. I mean, they get their health taken care of, and otherwise, if they didn't have it, they would have to fight anyway. So I think it's fine. It's a bit annoying as a fan, but what he said is just downright crazy.
What he said was crazy, but I think in the veil of madness, there's a little bit of validity to it. No, I don't think anyone should get a loss, but it's an extreme way to go about all these guys dropping out of fights. I mean, whether it's being tested for an elevated TE, whether it's, failing a different drug test, whether it's an injury, this has been a plague hitting the UFC, and it's happened these last 2 years more than ever. I mean, thinking back, it almost seems normal that every 2 or 3 events get scrapped because of injury, but I don't think that's normal. And I don't want to accuse any of these fighters of lying about injuries or exacerbating injuries, because honestly, I couldn't think of one fight where I think a fighter was not being truthful about his injury. But I think maybe installing something like having to have UFC verification, have doctors come in and verify, like, yeah, this is a legitimate injury, because I could see if I was an elite fighter, I, sprain a knee a week before the fight. Well, if I'm going to be at 70% for that fight, yeah, I can fight. But do I want to fight? Do I want to put my career on the line? Or am I going to say, oh, yeah, I got a minor tear in my ACL and now I can't fight? I think the UFC insurance is definitely a great thing to make sure all these guys are covered, and I think it's probably going to come back around and bite them in the ass whenever they retire and have crazy workers' compensation claims. But as far as the injury bug now, obviously, if a guy backs out of an injury because he breaks his leg, you can't say he lost, or forfeited the fight, and that's just another crazy thing Chael said. But I think what he's saying overall is kind of needed as far as putting in some sort of regulation to somehow limit this injury bug, because it's been crazy. I mean, UFC 148 was going to be the greatest card of all time, and Cruz Faber got scrapped. Faber Barao got moved to 149. Who knows? I personally don't think Cruz Faber would have gotten moved just because UFC 148 would have been such an epic fight. But, hey, so it goes, and this injury bug is really affecting the UFC right now.
Yeah,
and I think both of you are asleep
Arizona.
now after that 5 grand.
No, I mean, I love listening to your voice. I mean, nothing creepy about that. But Anthony from Arizona, what's your take on it, bud?
I have to agree with you guys. I think it's kind of bogus that if you injure yourself, especially in this sport where fighters are really, this is a lifestyle. You're training every day, and the argument can be made that no fighter ever fights at 100%. The way they train is so intense that they're always tweaking something, always pulling a muscle. And yeah, these guys have the best trainers there are out there to make sure it doesn't happen, make sure they can work through it. However, I think that for a loss to be counted because of a legit injury, I think that's totally bogus. Now, where I go as far as to have maybe a UFC doctor or somebody actually give it the clear that yes, this is a legit injury and it won't be counted as a loss, that can be implemented. But I see what that Chael Sonnen is trying to have some sort of regulation, but there is nothing much you can do when it comes to this to preventing.
Now, Anthony, just to let you know, every doctor that does a checkup on a fighter and can't clear them, that basically says this fighter cannot fight, on this date, they actually have to provide proof to the UFC. So having an official UFC doctor would just be an added cost, and it would be it would be something like a middleman that's just not needed. So every single injury is official. It's not like the UFC. Dan's like, okay, I trust you. No, they have to send in proof of it. X-rays, what have you.
Okay, yeah, I wasn't exactly sure how the system worked when it came to injuries, but I just tossing that out there. But yeah, I disagree with that. It should be counted as a loss. Even if it's non-injury related, they pull out for a personal reason, that can get kind of debatable. They got family emergency or something, because he didn't just specify injuries. He said if they pulled out at all, that would be counted as a loss. I think either way that, they shouldn't be penalized with a loss for that. That's just my opinion.
Definitely.
That's awesome.
What do you guys think about Dana White coming out saying fighters shouldn't train as hard as they actually do in training? Because Dana White came out about a week ago saying fighters can't go as hard as they're going in training. They're getting injured too much. They got to tone it down. What do you guys think about that?
I'm going to let Anthony go first, and then I'll follow up.
Anthony in Arizona.
Well, with that, it's got to be on the fighter's personal belief or his gym's belief or his fighting camp. You can't tell a fighter, especially in this sport, you need to, tone it down a bit. This is one-on-one cage fighting, and you have to be better than your opponent to do that. You have to work harder than him. You can't relax. It's winners are in this sport the guys that really earn it. Like they have to fight for it. So I think that I can see what he's trying to say. He's trying to say, take it easy, don't hurt yourself, but in reality, you know, they just can't do it. They got to keep doing what they're doing to win these fights.
Yeah, I agree. I think all of us have made good points in different ways, even if we don't see it exactly the same way. But let's be honest. Going hard is one thing in training, but going to the point where your body is breaking down and you're pushing so hard that you're getting into unnecessary injuries, that's another thing. You see these guys that are getting injured all the time. Obviously, they're not training smart. If you have a guy that gets an injury like once a year, once every 2 years, then he's doing it the right way. If you're constantly getting injured, that's one thing. So for Chael to come out and say Anderson Silva pulled out of a fight, you know, because he was injured, you know what? He's got some wear and tear. He's 36 years old. He had to get some bone spurs, you know, pulled out of his elbow when he pulled out of I think the rematch with Chael or something like that. So it just goes to show you that the name of the game is train smart, not hard. Have somebody to really organize your training sessions so you know exactly what you're going to do, when you're going to do it, and somebody who's smart and knows that just going hard constantly isn't the right move.
You know, one of the biggest injuries recently in MMA was the injury at Dominic Cruz. That was a dumb injury. It wasn't even from him and his training partner. He was training in a big room, and in a lot of these rooms, the entire room is a giant mat, and you have lots of guys sprawling. Two other people who were sprawling behind Dominic Cruz, you know, run up on Dominic Cruz, hit his leg awkwardly, and he's out for the fight, which is a two-sided problem. A, you can't have the world champion training in a room with 12 other douchebags. No offense. I mean, I'm not sure they obviously aren't douchebags, but you can't have the world champion training in a situation where there are a ton of guys just sprawling around on a mat. And if you were, you know, the group who shot toward Dominic Cruz and hit Dominic, you know, come on. I'm not sure their names will never come out, obviously. But what a dumb injury. That's one of the most unfortunate injuries I've heard of. Going down in training.
Yeah, man. Anthony, before you know, you gotta take off or we let you go, whichever happens first. I got a question for you, buddy.
We're gonna let him go.
Right now?
No.
Let me ask you this, man. I don't mean to be forward. I don't know if you heard this earlier on the podcast, but we were talking about public pooping, right? I'm a pretty brash guy. I say what I want when I want, and the only thing that really embarrasses me is when I'm trying to take a poop and there's other people around that can listen to it that I don't know.
By the way, you can follow us at publicpoopingpodcast.com.
So I want to know from you, you know, if you're still there, how do you feel about the whole public pooping debacle?
Okay, now clarify, public pooping. Are you talking about, like, are you still in a bathroom, say just at a public place, like at a restaurant, or you're talking
it's like
out
on
the
a
open?
plant. Yeah, it's out. No,
Don't listen to that guy. We're talking about pooping in a bathroom that isn't in your house or a friend's house, somewhere. You know, like a restaurant or, you know, a racquetball court because you're a fag. Where exactly, you know, could be pooping?
Honestly, this is just my personal thing. I never really poop outside of my house or any family member's house. I just kind of hold it.
What about when you go on vacation?
Oh, that's
yeah.
different.
What about camping?
I mean, not different. Well, okay, you're at a hotel room. Camping, well, you do what you gotta do. You're in.
Okay,
yeah,
well, but you do what
me.
you got to do. But, I mean, if you're sitting there and you're about to make a number two and someone walks in, do you stop until they leave or do you just go, fuck it, I'm going for it?
Well, I mean, it is a bathroom, so I'm not going to stop just for some stranger. You know, this is the natural thing. So if they got a problem with it, then, you know, I don't know. But, yeah, I would... No problem with it, but I just prefer not to until, you know, if I can get back home, then I'll just hold it. If not, fuck it, I'll just poop right there. In the bathroom, of course.
Well, I'm very glad we get so deep into public pooping.
Real happy that we could get that out there.
I was so embarrassed when Hominick came on. He's like, yeah, not only did you just wake up my family, but I've been listening to you talk about poop for the last 10 minutes. Like, oh God.
I just want to apologize to Jake Walters and Mark Hominick right now. Anthony, I don't know you. I can't apologize to you, but I'm sorry. I thought it's my bad, you guys. My bad.
It's definitely a key topic that needs to be brought up. But when a top UFC featherweight comes on the program and tells you he's been listening in to your 10-minute conversation about poop, there's not really much to say right there.
Anthony, we're going to have to let you go, buddy, but I hope you have an excellent day, and, yeah.
Thank you.
Take care of yourself. Take care of yourself, buddy.
Go tell Sonnen. Hopefully beat Jansen Silva this weekend, and thank you guys. Talk to you later.
Take it easy, man. And that was Anthony from Arizona. Without any further ado, I'm going to go into this 148 breakdown. We only got about an hour 10 left. I don't know if we're going to have enough time to really get into the meat of 148 and break down all the news, but we'll see what we can do. It's actually going to be a 6-fight main card. Usually we get a 4 or 5 fight main card. This time we're getting 6. Actually going to have to 15 and order up the pay-per-view off TV. What about you?
Yeah, I will definitely be acquiring this pay-per-view legally, and I will be enjoying it.
Yeah, actually, I can say truthfully that I'm buying a $60 pay-per-view. Usually I go out to a bar or do other things to catch a pay-per-view.
Now, other things, Jake, can you expand on that? Can you expand on the other things part?
Well, what I like to do is I like to close my eyes and have a friend put a phone up next to a TV playing it, and I to imagine. It's like a theater of the mind, and I let Goldie and Rogan, explain what's going on. I lay there with my eyes closed and my phone on speaker for about 2 hours, and I think about what the UFC probably looked like.
I literally imagined you saying that in the Adam Carolla voice. Well, the thing is, I like to get a friend, and I like him to come up with a phone.
Now, what I like to do. No, but this is gonna be one of those where I'm not having any problem rounding up a bunch of friends and having them all pitch $10. But in the reality of things, $60 for pay-per-view. If you wanted to buy every pay-per-view in 2011, it would have cost you $1,000. It's ridiculous, but this one is definitely going to be worth it, and I'm definitely going to be catching it. So we have Ivan Menjivar and Mike Easton leading. Oh wait, no, I didn't ask you. What are you going to be doing for the fight, man?
Well, I'm actually going to be having a couple friends over.
Nice.
Normally I don't. I used to go out to the bars or order them, at my house, but
down in the basement? Yeah,
down in the basement in my mom's house. Even though we live in a apartment and I own my own room. Thanks, Mark. So I'm gonna I set myself up for that. No, I'm gonna be ordering it, and a couple of buddies from work are coming over, and probably 2 of my other friends. So I'm gonna have a full house in the basement. Nice.
It sounds like we're both going to be doing similar things, having a bunch of friends over. It's going to be a fucking hell of a fight, I can tell you that right now. And Ivan Menjivar, Mike Easton leading it off. Menjivar, really interesting career. He's fought so many damn people. I mean, looking at his record, he's fought George St. Pierre, he fought Matt Serra, Faber, Joe Lauzon, Bart Palashevsky, who we had on a couple episodes ago, John Albert, who we had on in the first episode. He has really fought the who's who, and he's going up against Mike Easton. Menjivar took 4 years off. He didn't fight between November 2006 and June 2010. And his return's been quite fruitful. He's 4-1, only lost against Brad Pickett at bantamweight, and he's going up against Mike Easton, teammates with Dominic Cruz, 12-1, coming off a 7-win streak. What do you see happening in this fight, man?
My heart says Menjivar, but my gut says
But your body, body's telling you, Easton,
there ain't nothing wrong. Now, I would love to see Menjivar get a win against a guy like Eastman. It's just one of those things where I think he has a lot of mileage, and he's got a good training camp. He trains out of TriStar, but he takes a lot of chances. He's kind of, in my opinion, he's like the Chris Lieben of 135. He'll have really impressive wins, but he gets rocked in almost every fight. And Eastman is the kind of guy that has the Dominic Cruz tutelage, where he's basically he's not a boring fighter at all. He has great fights, but he is very careful. He uses perfect technique. He's a grappler by trade, but he uses striking. So ultimately, I think Eastman will take it, most likely by a decision, possibly a late stoppage. But it's hard to tell because Menjivar really pulls through sometimes, and I guess we'll see on Saturday.
I have Ivan Menjivar winning this one just because of experience. Like you said, it's going to be a really close fight. This is one of those rare fights on a Vegas that you don't have favorable odds on either guy. If you bet 100 on either dude, you aren't getting 100 back because it's so even. I believe Easton's minus 125 and Menjivar's minus 105, which I stopped betting on MMA a couple years ago. I never got really into it, but after I bet $20 on Marquardt over Sonnen, and Sonnen dominated him, I was like, this sport is too wacky to bet on. Both of them technically favorites, both of them in the minus category. And Easton, you said Ivan Menjivar puts himself out there, and Mike Easton is a black belt in both Taekwondo and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and you can't put yourself.
I did not know either of that. I did not know.
Yeah,
either.
you cannot put yourself out there against the guy who is a black belt in both striking and in Jiu-Jitsu, trains at Alliance MMA and with Team Lloyd Irvin. Definitely an interesting story. A guy we'll try and get on the podcast in the next few weeks here. But a lot of wins on his record. A win against John Dodson, which is pretty interesting. A lot of people aren't aware of that fight. But I say just because of pure experience, Ivan Menjivar gets it. The one thing I don't like about Mike Easton is his fighting style. He's so hunched over when he fights, and in his last fight against Jared Papazan, all he was doing, he was hunched over, he was going for the knockout. He won a majority decision, but wasn't really as accurate as he should have been for a guy who was basically hunched over and only looking for that knockout punch, which was very surprising to me, as you know, he's a black belt in Taekwondo. I don't know if he had a particular strategy going into it, but he fought pretty one-sided in UFC on FX. Gallard versus Miller, his most recent fight in January.
Yep, absolutely.
I would take a Ivan Menjivar decision here.
All right, so I guess we're split on that one. I got Eastman just for the fact that he's more of a point fighter compared to Menjivar, and he's solid enough to where he's probably not going to lose a fight against a guy that takes a lot of chances. Yeah,
Easton's pretty much always the stronger guy in the ring, not going to have that advantage necessarily this time. But he's got a 6-inch reach advantage. So if it turns into a fight where Easton can keep a distance and rocket those jabs in over and over, he'll probably win. But I look for Menjivar to close the distance. And we haven't really seen Mike Easton show off his Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt. Maybe if Menjivar puts Easton on his back, if he's able to, we can see a little bit of the jits out of the Hulk.
Yeah, I think that's the one thing I enjoy about Easton. I've been calling him Eastman all night. Thanks for not correcting me, goddamn.
Not a problem.
So
you're the pronunciation guy, not
you're
me.
Right. Yeah, my bad. So Eastman.
Eastman.
What was the question? I can't even remember the question now. What were you asking me?
I was saying if Menjivar can close the distance and maybe put Easton on his back, if he can do that period, we might be able to see a little bit of jiu-jitsu out of the Hulk.
Right. That's not going to happen. Menjivar prefers to keep it standing. If it hits the ground after some kind of knockdown or scramble, he goes for it, but he's not the guy to shoot a takedown. And I think Easton, Jesus Christ,
there you go.
Easton is really just as strong as Menjivar, so I don't really see that happening. I think it's going to be a stand and bang, but it's not going to be. I don't feel that it's going to be an exciting fight. I think they're going to be trading, and maybe someone gets rocked, and then the rest of the fight goes into cruise control. It's going to be a 3-rounder for sure.
Definitely, I think most people think that one's going to go to a decision. Next up on the card, we got Chad Mendes and Cody McKenzie. Very interesting fight, you know. Mendes is a guy who a lot of people think are. Wow, I'm messing up my verbiage as bad as you're messing up Eastman's last name. Mendes is someone who most people think is toward the top of the division, even though Aldo kind of handily knocked him out, which Faber actually called out because you would look and Aldo actually grabbed the cage when he turned around for that knee. But Mendes, obviously one of the best guys in the division, and Cody McKenzie hasn't really proved himself yet. Has that sick gable grip guillotine where he just cinches up the neck and turns it. You know, very, very, very sick guillotine. But I'm very interested to see, you know, Cody McKenzie isn't a bad wrestler, and Chad Mendes is all wrestling, a 2-time NCAA All-American. What do you happening in this one, man?
Well, I see this as a huge mismatch. You've got a guy at the top of the division facing a guy that barely made his featherweight debut.
Very curious match.
I don't understand it, man. I think
Mendes is a previous number 1 contender, and McKenzie is maybe a newbie to the top 10 if you even put him in the top 10.
No, nowhere near the top 10. This is a gift fight for Mendes, and it's literally like throwing a rabbit into a giant whirlpool of great white sharks. I don't see it, man, and here's why. Okay,
it's pretty akin to Verdum, so.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I see that. McKenzie has that guillotine. It's great, but guess what? It doesn't work against guys who know how to defend it. Eve Edwards got out of one. It essentially, it's kind of like the Husamal Parhares complex.
Belcher got out of that.
Right. It's basically the guys that go for one thing. They're so good at it, they rely on it. Instead of using it sparingly, they always go for it. And here's my problem. Chad Mendes trains at Team Alpha Male. That guy, who is better at guillotines than Team Alpha Male? You got Benavidez, Faber, you got, Danny Castillo. You got all these guys that do guillotines all the time, and you think those guys aren't training guillotine defense? Castillo got out of how many guillotines against Joe Stevenson and what's that one idiot, the guy that talks shit about Barack Obama, the guy that we hate? Volkman. He got out of a bunch of chokes out of Volkman. So ultimately, McKenzie's a one-trick pony, and Mendes is way too talented, way too good, and top of the division for that guy.
Yeah, he doesn't necessarily have the stand-up to give Mendes an issue, and obviously if Mendes shoots for the takedown, I think McKenzie will land on his ass. If McKenzie goes for the takedown, I think Mendes will probably hold it off. It's going to be really interesting seeing what happens with Mendez's career in the 145 division if he gets another shot against Aldo, which he very well could. He was one of the biggest names who a lot of people were saying this is the guy who's going to beat Jose Aldo. He has insane wrestling. I would like to see a rematch of Aldo Mendes simply just because I think Mendes is up there with Chan Sung Jung as a guy who is arguably second in the featherweight division.
Yeah, agreed, man. You know what? Mendez is he's a talented fighter. I think he doesn't go for the finish enough. That's one thing that bugs me. He's not quite John Fitch level, but he's pretty close. He smothers guys a lot. He's been working on his striking, but I'd like to see him kind of find his groove or his niche and really go after finishes. I think he could do it if he tried hard enough, man. I mean, I know it's a fight and he's fighting cream of the crop guys, but he couldn't finish. Who was it? It wasn't Kid Yamo. It was
Ronnie Yanya.
Yeah, he couldn't finish that guy.
Before his loss to Jose Aldo, which was his most recent fight, 6 out of his last 7 fights were unanimous decisions, all 3 rounds, all of them except one in the WEC or UFC. So kind of a decision machine, but I think I really do honestly think we'll see a first TKO out of Mendez here.
I hope you're right, man. I'd love to see a finish, and I think this fight is tailor-made because McKenzie goes for it. He really kind of puts himself out there, kind of like Menjivar does. So I think ultimately McKenzie will threaten with some kind of submission, lose it. Mendez will take over from there, and we'll probably see a first or a second round finish. I'm right there with you.
Wow, I'm looking at his bio now. Do you know what descent he is from?
Mendez?
Mendez, yeah.
Yeah, he's Mayan.
He is of Portuguese, Italian, Puerto Rican, Irish, and Native American descent.
Wow. That's incredible. And he's got a crooked nose and a nice mole. And
he's an awesome guy, just in case we ever have him on.
Yeah. You know what's funny?
We already have one fighter coming out after us to kill us.
You're right, my bad. But him and Uriah Faber look very similar in build, and they both have the prominent chins. I think that's
they really do. I would like to see a tag team match between Chad Mendez and Uriah Faber against Dominic Cruz and Alexander Gustafsson.
I hate you.
Even though there would be a little bit of a size mismatch with a couple, with a bantamweight and a featherweight going up against a bantamweight and a light heavyweight, I think Dominic Cruz and Alexander Gustafsson. Gustafsson even looks like him. He has the Eddie Munster sort of look, Swedish Eddie Munster, but super tall instead of little like Dominic Cruz.
If they make that fight, then I would like to see Alistair Overeem versus John Fitch.
What if it was like a chicken fight where Mendez got on Faber's shoulders?
I thought you meant like they choose chickens that look exactly like them and then they fight in an octagon.
It's basically just a glorified cockpit. All right, moving on.
Let's do that.
I see a Mendez first round TKO. What about you?
I'm not going to call it. I don't want to call this fight. It's Mendez wins for sure.
Yeah, I like Cody McKenzie. I'd like to see him do well, but lost 2 of his last 3 to Wagner, Hocha, and Eve Edwards, who I don't think are near the caliber fight that Chad Mendez is. And both of those fights ended with a rear naked choke. It's pretty funny. Cody McKenzie's he's fought 15 fights. Every single one of his fights, except for his first fight ever, has ended with a choke. He's choked out 12 guys, and 2 guys have choked him out. So who knows? Maybe expect a Chad Mendez rear naked choke in the first round. You heard it here first, because Cody McKenzie likes to get choked.
You know what? Him and David Carradine would have a ball. Oh wait, never mind.
No, they wouldn't, because David Carradine killed himself choking himself. Remember? Duh.
That's a joke, idiot.
Next up, Damian Maia versus Dong Yeon Kim. Pretty interesting fight. Damian Maia, a former number 1 middleweight contender, fought Anderson Silva. One of those win-loss guys. After he lost to Anderson Silva, pretty much, look at his record. All decisions, beat Miranda, Grove, and Santiago, but losses to Munoz and Weidman convinced him to move down to 170. I don't think Dong Yeon Kim is a very good matchup for Maia at all. I think Maia could definitely beat a lot of welterweights, but stun guns Stun Gun's a top guy, and I think he'll quell all Damian Maia has. He's stronger than Maia standing up, and obviously Maia is more of a grappler than Stun Gun, but I think Dong Hyun Kim has the ability on the ground to make sure he doesn't get submitted.
Okay.
He's never been submitted.
Let's see how many words this is. Hold on. Okay. All right. 4 words. Stun Gun, unanimous decision.
Yep, that's what a lot of people are thinking. A majority of his wins obviously have come by decision. Majority of Maia's losses have come by decision. So what I've seen pretty much across the board, Dong Hyun Kim, black belt in judo, I believe. Yeah, 4th Dan black belt in judo, fighting out of South Korea. I think he's going to put it to him. You know what?
I've got a funny story.
I wouldn't be too surprised. It's kind of shocking how many of Dong Hyun Kim's fights go to decision, because that guy can put a punch on someone. He's got a wallop, and Maia isn't rocked too often, but when he is rocked, he has one of the most spectacular knockouts when Mark ran across the cage and punched him so hard he did a 360 in the air before he landed.
Oh, that was a 180, first off. He didn't spin all the way around and then land facing him.
I think it was
that was a 180.
No, I think it was the 900. Like
Tony Hawk. No, funny story for you. 5 straight submission wins by Damian Maia in his octagon, his first 5 fights. Then he gets knocked by Mark Hort. Now he's a boring fighter who trains stand-up nonstop, and all he does is 1-2, left, right, maybe a leg kick or a body kick here and there. A lot of people give Jackson's MMA a lot of shit for turning really exciting fighters into boring fighters, but I think he's a testament to the fact that if you take a loss and you change your style up, whatever made you really great in the first place will be lost in the transition. And it's really, really aggravating to see a guy who was top-flight jiu-jitsu just doing amazing, crazy matrix things on the ground.
Third-degree black belt in jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, turn into a mediocre stick fighter. It's horrible.
Yeah, fights with the one fight team out of Sao Paulo, and it was really kind of disheartening. You hear Damian Maia is going to focus more on his stand-up, and you're like, oh, this guy's going to be dangerous. He's going to have killer stand-up, and obviously he's one of the best guys in jiu-jitsu. Unfortunately, stand-up definitely did improve, but it wasn't anywhere near the caliber of his opponents. He was fighting guys like Anderson Silva at the time, and his jiu-jitsu... Anderson. His jiu-jitsu fell off quite a bit when he stopped focusing on it, which is pretty interesting. You hear about guys not training for a while and kind of finding themselves lost a little bit. But Maia recently has said he's put his focus a little bit back into jiu-jitsu to be the grappler he once was. He had a crazy streak, went 11-0, tapped guys left and right, tapped Chael Sonnen with a triangle choke, which Chael Sonnen refutes as a part of his past. And since then, he had the win-loss streak, lost to Mark Hort, beat Miller, lost to Silva. I could go on and on. But, I think both of us agree here. Dong Hyun Kim is going to take a unanimous decision.
Yep.
So, those are the first 3 fights. You want to get our 10 seconds of sports in before we get into the last 3 fights?
Does a bull burn the bush 2 times in the stink?
No, I don't think it does.
Let's go.
Let's do it. Football, hockey, basketball are on their off-season, which makes this co-host very happy. Spain beats Italy 4-0 in the Euro final. Thank God the Olympics start at the end of July because I hate regular season baseball. 162 games. Come on! That just came all over my computer screen like I always do when I hear that sound effect.
Oh, it should be illegal.
It is illegal in Canada, actually. But
eat that, Mark.
Whoa! Eat that, Mark. The rivalry is heating back up. If Mark comes back on the air and threatens us, I gave him the call-in number, So if he's still listening and wants to call you up and
that guy isn't listening. He has a life. Come on.
Hey, you messed up a Great Lake against a guy and a Canadian especially, and he'll tend to get pissed.
Hashtag Canadian Great Lakes.
Hashtag. So do all 5 Great Lakes share like up with the U.S. and Canada? I'm really kind of unsure. Honestly, I had no idea the Great Lakes were such a touchy subject. I'm gonna make sure if I ever visit up there to polish up my Great Lakes skills. But what a class act, for real. I mean, that guy had every reason in the world to be pissed off at us, and he laughed it off. That was awesome. Chris is literally speechless. Yeah, so the top 3 fights, I'm sure there's 45 minutes in this podcast. I'm sure we'll probably talk about the main event for the remainder when we get to it. Kung Lee, Patrick Cote, though. Kung Lee, a newbie in the UFC, rose to Strikeforce success. I believe was the Strikeforce middleweight champion, which he later vacated to go on to the UFC. Fought Scott Smith a couple times over in Strikeforce. Really hasn't fought a well-known list of MMA fighters yet, except for Wanderlei, who he lost to by TKO in the second round last November. And you have Patrick Cote, who has fought a lot of people. Fought guys like Lieben, Luter, Belcher, Lawler, Anderson. His last few fights obviously haven't been in the UFC. He had a 4-fight hiatus after he lost to Anderson, Belcher, and Lawler consecutively. But he's back, says he wants a run at the title. You got to feel pretty bad for the guy in his fight against Anderson Silva. Messed up his knee. Couldn't go any further because he tore his ACL. Another one of those guys. I would put him with Hominick and top 10 well-known Canadian mixed martial artists. This is going to be a very interesting fight, Lee versus Cote. A fight that you tried to bring up a couple podcasts ago when we were breaking down 147, and almost made me pee my pants. Because I was like, Lee versus Cote's fighting? What the hell is going on? Apparently, our co-host isn't too impressed with Lee versus Cote.
Who are we talking about?
We're talking about Canadian mixed martial arts middleweight. Patrick Cote.
Peacoat. I took Anderson to the brink. I was beating him up. Yeah, Patrick Cote, really boring fighter. I'm such a computer with my memory. I'll tell you,
Lee is very excited. Shows those exciting spins.
Cote basically had a gift title shot. What happened was at UFC 90, Yushin Okami was supposed to face Anderson Silva. He pulled out with an injury about a month into it, and they got Cote to replace him. Cote, on his road to the title, fought such greats as Kendall Grove, Ricardo Almeida,
Drew McFedries.
Yeah, he never deserved to be there. I mean, I really think they could have found someone else. I mean, they should have. That fight never should have happened. And beyond 1 or 2 right hands, Cote was completely stagnant, had no offense, was dancing around, and danced so hard that he buckled his own knee. That guy is a frickin' wiener. So.
A frickin' wiener. A frickin' wiener with good stand-up. He's a frickin' wiener who can really throw bombs, has strong punches. I think it'll be simply interesting because both of these guys like to stand it up. Kung Lee is a very untraditional striker, whereas Cote is a pretty traditional striker. He'll just come at you with those lefts and rights. I'm more interested in this just to see where both guys stand in the division. Lee might need to win this fight to stay in the UFC. Let's be totally honest here. I mean, he lost handily to a guy in Wanderlei who is a guy a lot of people should be scrapped from the UFC simply because of his age and his sort of lackluster record of late. and lost a fight to Scott Smith before that, even though he made it up. I think this fight against Cote and both vice versa, Cote's fight against Lee is going to mean a lot to him in the division. The winner's going to be, definitely in the top 20, top 15, top 20 of the middleweight division, and the loser might be facing Exodus from the UFC.
Yeah, definitely. I think Lee has an amazing striking style. The problem is it's too little, too late. The guy's 40 years old, made the Octagon debut in November. If this had been 5 years ago, it would have been a great move, but it wasn't really possible back then. I think it was just making his MMA debut. So props to Lee for hanging in there as a older fighter, and I think Cote is a bad matchup stylistically. I think Cote covers up real well. He's got really good defense. He doesn't really get outstruck. He gets out-grappled, and Kung Lee isn't a good grappler. So I've got Patrick Cote by whatever he wants.
Yeah, I actually see Cote winning as well, which I hope Lee doesn't get released from the UFC after this, because I think he's a very exciting fighter. But yeah, Cote's back. It looks like he put some good fights together in his last 4 fights. I actually didn't see any of them, but I read play-by-plays of them. I wasn't able to find video because his last 4 fights have been in pretty small promotions. 2 in Ringside MMA, 1 in Impact MMA, which apparently is spelled with 2 I's, IIMPACT MMA. That's weird. And an Amazon Forest Combat 2, which was in Brazil. So I won't make.
What a great card that was! I mean, so many people fighting on it.
Gustavo Machado versus Patrick Cote. Yeah, it'll be interesting simply because Lee has fought those top guys recently in Strikeforce. But Cote has a lot more experience, hasn't fought the level fighter that Lee has. So it'll be just simply interesting to see where each guy is in the middleweight division. Moving up to the co-main event, we got the last fight ever, the retirement fight for UFC Hall of Famer, or soon-to-be UFC Hall of Famer, Tito Ortiz, in his trilogy fight against Forrest Griffin. They fought twice before, which is kind of interesting. In their first fight, most people thought Forrest won and Ortiz got the nod. In their second fight, most people thought Tito won, but Forrest got the nod, so it went kind of vice versa, the way people thought it would go. But this will be a great rematch. Tito looks insanely motivated, and he's made it publicly known that this is his last fight. So it'll be cool to see him go out against Forrest Griffin, who has been sort of a part of his career since the beginning.
Yeah, these guys were trailblazers. I mean, Forrest was responsible for the real ignition in the sport. I mean, great guy, funny interview. And Tito, my God, I used to hate the guy with a passion, but after he won that Bader fight, I was like, oh, it's nice to see a guy who went winless for 5 years get a win. That's great. But then he started talking about how one more shot, a fight against Rashad. If he beats Rashad, he should get a title shot. And I was like, okay, we're back to the old Tito. Here we go. And then, recently he made a post about, it would be Ali Frazier if he fought John Jones if he was in his prime. I'm like, no, you were never good enough to fight John Jones. You were a guy who fought a bunch of people in the dark ages and smashed them. Good for you, but I mean, those weren't mixed martial artists. Those were guys fighting for a few extra bucks, or they were particular to one art. They were either jiu-jitsu guys or strikers. So I think both of them are just real legends. Don't get me wrong, they have a place in the sport. But to say that you would give John Jones a run for his money in your prime when you're facing guys like Elvis Sinisic, Yuki Kondo, Frank Shamrock.
And John Jones has already been a who's who of Rampage, Lyoto, Shogun, Rashad.
Yeah.
More likely than not Henderson, even though who knows how that fight will end up. Definitely. I sort of think this is sort of one of those things where Dana White told him, hey, man, this is your last fight. He's won, in his last 8 fights, he's won one of them. He's won 6 and 1 draw. 1 win, 6 losses, 1 draw in his last 8 fights. Granted, he did fight a lot of quality people. He fought Little Nog. The 6 fighters he lost to, Little Nog, Rashad, Matt Hamill, Griffin, Machida, and Chuck, the draw to Rashad Evans. And somehow he beat Ryan Bader, which, like I mentioned on a previous podcast, we... on my last podcast, MMA at Work, we went on and on about how there's no way Bader could ever lose to Ortiz, but he proved us wrong. So if Forrest isn't as motivated as he needs to be, he could pull off a win against him.
I think Tito wins. He always finds a way to lose. He shouldn't have lost that Hamill fight. I mean, he was on fire. He was landing head kicks.
And I don't think he should have lost the Forrest fight either.
I agree. Like, he shouldn't have lost that. But here's the thing. They fought each other twice. They've gone to a decision twice. I think this fight, for some reason, deep down, I believe it will get finished. I mean, it has to be. Forrest's chin is really depleted. Tito's never been knocked out. Forrest looks really unmotivated. I have to say, Tito Ortiz wins in stylistic fashion. I'm really feeling that.
Definitely. Forrest is one of these guys. I don't know what the deal is, but it just seems like there is not much fire in the gas tank still. You talk to him, and he's kind of lackadaisical. He'll talk about this and that and isn't too excited. You talk to Tito Ortiz, and he's just so amped up. It's almost weird how amped up he is about his fight. And he's talking about going to a big bear and how excited he is and how this is his last fight. On paper, I would say Forrest Griffin wins just because, you will look at his record, and the only people he's lost to are the big names like the Shoguns, Andersons, Rashad. Since 2006, those are the only 3 guys who have beaten him. But, you got to add in that X factor, and with Tito Ortiz, he's going to be pumped up as shit for this fight. He is going to want to win this fight more than anything else. So I definitely could see Ortiz looking for the perfect ending to his 27 fight career, all of which except one being in the UFC.
Yeah, definitely. I think my favorite Forrest Griffin story, you were bringing up how nonchalant he is. He was getting an interview with Dave Farah. Are you familiar with Dave Farah?
I'm not.
Oh, he's really tall. He's like 6'4". He's got a really big forehead. Anyways, he does interviews for I'm actually not familiar with the site. Sorry. I thought it was MMA Heat, something else. But MMA 30.
The MMA Podcast.com. You should go to that.
Yes. Do that. MMA 30, whatever. So that guy was interviewing Forrest, and they're talking about sex, and Forrest goes, I don't like condoms. I don't like condoms.
Wow.
And Dave Farah's like, what? And he's like, yeah, it makes my pee-pee look small.
He is a class act. He almost like Chael Sonnen, who's in the main event, is a little bit more of an entertainer than anything else. He keeps people laughing for sure.
And Dave Farah looks at him and stops and, closes his eyes. And he's like, I don't even know what that means. It makes your pee-pee look small.
That's amazing. Forrest is one of the funnier guys. And even though he went to the University of Georgia, who, if you're aware of their rivalry with my school, UF, it's rare for me to like anyone from UGA because they're our rivals. But, yeah. It is hard not to be a big fan of Forrest Griffin, and I think if Forrest can dictate where the fight takes place, he'll win. If he can keep the fight standing up, he's a big 205er, and he has very crisp jabs. Anderson Silva kind of made a mockery of his stand-up, but I think that's mainly because Anderson Silva is a freak, not necessarily because Forrest Griffin doesn't have good stand-up. If Forrest can keep it standing, I see him winning the fight. But if Tito can keep Forrest on his back, I see Tito winning it.
definitely. I just tweeted at Mark Hominick. I put, I will get out of this basement. Watch me. Hashtag get out of mom's basement 2013.
I tweeted at him a minute ago something about hashtag witness protection because he is going to come after us if we woke up his wife and kids. A little bit of pee came out when he said he was going to find me and beat me down. Just a little bit. It wasn't enough to where I had to clean up or get a towel, but a little bit of pee came out. And I'm glad actually that we were able to touch on pee after talking about so much poo-poo in the beginning of the podcast. Sort of a balance.
Yeah, it's a balancing act. It's like that old man who dropped off that tightrope back in the 70s.
We are professionals. We're actually sponsored by Nike and Under Armour.
I thought you were going to say the Flesh Jack, the gay fleshlight.
The Flesh Jack, the gay fleshlight. Let's bring it full circle here. May as well at this point. And the Flesh Jack. Don't ever Google search that, or else you will have nightmares for like 5 or 6 days. Anyhow, yeah, I see Tito winning this one, just because he has so much emotion in the fight, and Forrest just hasn't really had that. Maybe a part of the Shogun fight, his last fight in August, his wife was literally going into labor while he was fighting in Brazil, thousands of miles away, so I'm sure he was a little preoccupied for that. But yeah, we'll see if he can put a win streak back together and take one against Tito.
Yeah, it'd be a great swan song.
Yeah.
Let's move on.
So, yeah, I guess that covers UFC 148. So let's move on to the news.
Sonnen and Silva.
No.
Sonnen and Silva, the biggest freaking fight.
That isn't a notable fight. It's only the most anticipated fight in the history of the sport. Come on. And, oh, my God. Anderson Silva versus Chael fucking Sonnen II. We've been waiting for this fight since about 2 seconds after Anderson Silva tapped Chael. Everybody wanted an immediate rematch. Unfortunately, that didn't happen because Chael tested positive for an elevated TE ratio, but it's finally happened. Silva's won a couple since, Sonnen's won a couple since, and it's fucking happening finally. The rematch, the most anticipated rematch. That first fight was the craziest shit I've ever seen. I've probably said it before on the podcast. The two craziest things I've ever seen in a fight. 2, Chael Sonnen beating the shit out of Anderson Silva for 23 minutes. 1, Anderson Silva coming back and cinching up that triangle. That was akin to Elway's drive in the NFL. If you're familiar with that, that was a legendary comeback. What a moment for Silva. What a moment for the sport. Everyone's stock, I think, went up there. Silva's stock went up. People thought much more of him. A great comeback. Sonnen's stock went up. He's by far the only person to come close to beating Anderson Silva and beat the shit out of him. And I think everybody's been waiting for this rematch for a long time. It's finally going down.
What a wonderful, wonderful assessment, sir, by the way. Props for that. A++. When you said it was by far, before you said that, I thought you were going to say it was bisexually the greatest fight I've ever seen.
It almost made me go bisexual just because I was so impressed with Chael Sonnen. Chael close to a Tebow level of man crush for me. Not quite, but close. He's getting there. If he beats Anderson Silva, he might be on my Tebow level of man crushiness.
He's got the stones of Pete Holmes.
He's got stones like John Holmes, and he fights like John Jones.
That's what I meant. There we go. That's what I meant. Yeah, ultimately, this is a fight I can't call. I want to say Chael wins, but I'm not going to make a call because Anderson Silva is, bar none, the most impressive and greatest fighter in MMA history, in my opinion. Not combat sports history. Badr Hari's a badass.
Questionably the greatest fighter of all time.
Yeah, the greatest.
Most title defenses, most accurate striker ever.
Yeah.
doesn't let anyone take him down. Every part of his game is top notch. He is
except for wrestling.
And I thought it was weird in the episode of UFC Countdown where Silva and Sonnen both are watching the fight. Silva says, "I didn't wrestle when I was a kid. I played soccer." I was like, so that's your excuse for letting Sonnen push you on your ass the entire fight? Your excuse is you played soccer? Which the one question that nags at me about Sonnen and Silva, I don't know how to call it either, Chris. It really could go either way. Silva is the greatest fighter of all time, so I don't want to bet against him, but Sonnen put it to Silva the entire fight, and I'm sure has worked tremendously on his top ground defense since the fight, so I don't want to bet against him either. The one X factor that I think is going to do it, how much that cracked rib or broken rib affected Anderson. No one knows except Anderson how much that affected him, whether it only affected him a little bit or only affected him a lot. And I think that's if it only affected him a little bit, I expect Sonnen to win this fight by unanimous decision in similar fashion, putting Silva on his butt and pounding away at him. But none of us know how bad that rib injury was, and if that was a bad rib injury that really handicapped Silva, and Silva comes out a different fighter, good luck, Chael.
Man, who are you, Socrates? That was beautiful.
I mean, Jesus Christ, Silva is such a scary fighter, and one thing that gives a lot of credit to him. You see the video of him holding up the UFC championship belt right after the fight with one arm, and with his other arm he's literally holding his chest, holding his ribs, and grimacing, trying to smile but grimacing at the same time. So I think this may have been an issue. I think we might find ourselves with a completely different Anderson Silva in the ring. Maybe we don't. Maybe it was an excuse. You know, you talk about excuses. It seems like Tito Ortiz, every other fight, comes out, oh, I had a cracked rib, cracked foot, my back, my C7.
Cracked skull, my back, my shit, my
back
dick.
Took a poop before the fight and it didn't sit well. You know, there's so many excuses. And Anderson really isn't one of those guys who makes an excuse. So you want to think that it's pretty legitimate. You know, Anderson's a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, a black belt in Judo, a black belt in Taekwondo. He is the greatest fighter of all time, but he's going up against a guy who takes advantage of his main weakness, wrestling. So Jesus Christ, it is the most anticipated fight for so many reasons. It's the most anticipated fight stylistically. You have the greatest fighter of all time and the greatest fighter at Anderson's kryptonite. You have the greatest fighter and the greatest wrestler in his division. It's the greatest fight of all time, or it's the most anticipated fight of all time in the history, because of Silva Sonnen 1 being the greatest fight of all time. And it's the most anticipated fight of all time because they are talking so much shit. I mean, we would be missing out on a key aspect of the story if we didn't talk about the shit talking going on. I mean,
but let's move on to that after I make my point.
All right,
two things here. You brought up a great point. Anderson had some injured ribs in the feature film Like Water, a documentary done by I think it was Tap Out.
Glee.
Yes, Glee. The cast of Glee did that. But essentially, my point is this. Anderson can shore up his takedown defense and his wrestling all he wants. He's going up against a monster who's been wrestling since he was 6. This guy, when he wants to take someone down, he does it. He took down Dan Miller. He ragdolled O'Connor. He ragdolled Marquardt. Anyone he wants to take down, he does it. So I don't care if Anderson is working with Cael Sanderson or, you know, any kind of Olympic level guy. It doesn't matter. Like he said, he was playing soccer most of his life, and he's been a striker. He actually, early in his career, he got submitted a lot because he didn't have jiu-jitsu. Then he
guys
went
like
with
Phil, Maya, Horn, Renato Sobral.
Exactly. So my point is this. Chael has laid the roadmap of how to beat Anderson Silva. He's got, aggressive tornado-like wrestling. He has the best power double in MMA. The only guys who come close are Josh Koscheck and GSP.
Yeah.
He runs through people. Anderson, the only way to stop that is to counter-strike with a knee or a strike. And I'll tell you what, injured rib or not, we'll see what happens on the 7th. I don't want to make this call, but there's something deep down in me that thinks that Chael's going to pull this off. Because Anderson is pissed. Chael got into his head. And if Anderson's pissed, he may come out like a bat out of hell on fight night in the first 3 minutes. But guess what? Chael's going to take him down and beat him up. It's not going to be one-sided. Chael is definitely going to do some work on fight night. And Anderson, he's normally cool and collected and just, nice to his opponents. But guess what? I think he's going to make some mistakes because he's angry and he's emotional.
And that's something, that segues beautifully into the shit talking I was about to get into. Chael's been talking shit since he came out of the womb. Apparently, he talks shit. He was talking shit about. He was talking mad shit about Anderson before the first fight, after the first fight, and the time he was suspended. He was talking about Anderson before the Bisping fight, before the Stan fight. He's been. I forget if it was after the Bisping or the Stan fight that when Rogan gave him the mic to say, great fight, how you fought an awesome fight out there. What did you do to ensure the victory? He grabs him, Anderson Silva, you absolutely suck. So he is almost obsessed with Anderson. Said a lot of stuff about his country, talking about him playing in the mud, while Chael and his friends talk about the latest in engineering and American ingenuity, talking about how he's not going to leave until Anderson's wife cooks a steak for him and he pats her on the butt and she cooks it medium rare. I mean, he's gotten pretty deep with a lot of these, calling him a coward, a charlatan. That's not close to the worst of it. Anderson's kind of sat through it all, shrugged it off, whatever. I don't know what happened, but about a week ago during a press conference, he snapped, and since then he hasn't had that same attitude. During the presser, he was talking about, I'm going to break every bone in Chael's body. I'm going to break his arms, his teeth, his face. He's not going to be able to walk. And obviously, we've got a link to the stare down up on the MMA Podcast.com, and it was Anderson, not Chael, who seemed much more heated. Chael was kind of standing there stone-faced as Anderson was trying to, get up in his face and all that. And it makes you wonder if this Anderson that's very angry and shored up with Chael is going to fight as he should.
Yeah, man, I agree. We'll see Saturday night, man. It's going to be the greatest fight of all time, in my opinion.
Definitely, man. It's the most anticipated fight of all time. We literally could go on for another hour about this fight, but I think we only have about another 15-20 minutes, and we got a few news items to get to. We have our segment we do at the top of every month about the top 3 fights of the month that we are stoked for. So you want to get to that before we do the news, man?
You know it, buddy.
Let's do it. And, like I was saying before, most anticipated fight of all time. Kind of hard to not put Sonnen Silva 2 on the top 3 fights of the month I'm pumped for all the reasons I said before. They've been talking tremendous amounts of shit. It's a great stylistic matchup, and their first fight was the craziest thing I've ever seen in my life. Second fight I'm excited for this month, Mark Munoz versus Chris Weidman. Weidman's one of these guys a lot of people are talking about in the middleweight division, but I don't know if I'm really that sold on him yet. Hasn't really fought too many quality guys yet. His last fight was kind of a shit decision against Maia. Other than that, his only UFC wins are against Lawler, Bongfeld, and Sakara. Munoz, like Weidman's a wrestler. and is definitely going to test Weidman's grit at the middleweight division. And my last one is Hector Lombard versus Tim Boetsch. Very much like Munoz Weidman, is going to show a lot where guys are in the middleweight division. Tim Boetsch had a crazy comeback against Yushin Okami, or yeah, it was against Yushin Okami. Fought a lot of quality guys. Even before Okami, he put a beating on Nick Ring and Kendall Grove before, moving down from light heavyweight, or after moving down. And Hector Lombard, he's really kind of the biggest question mark in my eye as far as where he ranks in the UFC. He was in Bellator for the longest time. Yeah.
5'8" at middleweight. That's great.
He put it on his opponents in Bellator. So we'll see if he can keep it rolling in the UFC. What are your 3 fights, Chris?
Well, top of the list, obviously, Silva versus Sonnen. Right there with you, man. So pumped for this fight, man. I can't wait. I'm going to have butterflies the entire day. The entire day waiting for that thing. Number 2 is obviously Faber Cruz. I mean, I
Faber
can't wait
Barao?
to see it. That's what I meant. Yeah. Faber versus Dominic Barao, obviously.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
Yeah. Faber is, one of the cream of the crop at 135. He was the king at 145 in his day, and he dropped down after a couple of decision losses. Hasn't really been finished by anyone except for Mike Brown in his Zuffa career, so can't wait to see that. Renan Barao, the pariah, what a great fighter, just fantastic. He's like a Jose Aldo at 135. Can't wait to see that fight. And lastly, a strange one, Alex Caceres, Bruce Leroy versus Damasio Page.
That's going to be a good one.
Yeah, dude, I can't wait. Damasio pushes it every time, just like Menjivar. He always puts himself out there, and Caceres is flashy and really fun to watch. He may not have the best record. He may have lost to some guys convincingly, but I love watching the kid fight. And those are the fights that I'm pumped for.
And those are the fights we're pumped for. Obviously, Silva Sonnen taking top billing on both of our lists. But yeah, all those other fights, Munoz, Weidman, Lombard, Boetsch, Barao, Faber, and Bruce Leroy versus Damasio Page, those are all going to be some kick-ass fights. Speaking of fight announcements, this and that, a lot of, or not too much in MMA news this week. Actually, before I say a lot of MMA news, wasn't too much. There was a lot, but most of it was UFC 148 related. As you know, we've had tons of press conferences. Weigh-ins are tomorrow. Oh, I can't fucking wait for this fight. So yeah, let's get into the news. Next time we should just see how long we can keep making those noises until everybody tunes out.
I get rid of everyone.
I have a counter here, and we will do it. We will play a game of chicken with listeners. We will make sounds until you tune away.
He will go for it.
Don't test me. Don't test Chris. Once he counted down an entire round from 5 minutes to 0 seconds during the Ultimate Fighter. We were watching different recordings. I DVR'd it, and I was like, yeah, you want to count it down? I'm like, sure, 5 minutes, 4:59, 4:58, all the way down to 1. So that was one of the more impressive things I've ever seen in my entire life, honestly.
Thank you. You gave me props midway. You're like, really? Really? You're really going to do this? I'm like, 57. 56.
About a minute in, I was like, really? Come on, dude. Seriously? And then like 2 or 3 minutes in, I was rooting for it. I was like, come on, man, you can do it. Almost there. 2 more minutes. Oh, God. But, yeah, a lot of middleweight news coming out this month. All 3 of my fights I'm pumped for are middleweight fights this month. Sonnen Silva, Munoz, Weidman, Lombard, Boetsch. And we found out another fight was made recently. Actually, today, Duke Roufus came out on Twitter. He didn't actually come out on Twitter, but he tweeted that Joe Silva is scheduling Bisping versus Alan Belcher. Bisping called Belcher out on Tuesday on UFC Tonight on Fuel TV, said he wanted Alan Belcher, and apparently Joe Silva contacted Rufus, who's Belcher's manager, and they're putting that together.
You know what? I'm such a freak. I love Alan Belcher. I'm a huge Alan Belcher fan. I'm gonna run back some information for you. You ready for this?
I'm ready.
It's creepy. I can finally prove to the world my crazy, creepy knowledge. I swear I don't have a browser open. Check this out. Belcher loses to Jason Day at UFC 85. In his next fight, he takes on Ed Herman, wins by decision. In his next fight, he faces Dennis Kang at UFC 93. He wins that by a guillotine choke. In his next fight, he loses to Yoshihiro Akiyama by a split decision at UFC 100. In his next fight, he wins against Wilson Gobea, TKO. And then the next one, Patrick Cote at UFC 113 by a rear naked choke in the second round. In his next fight, he wins against who was that? Jason McDonald in the first round by TKO.
You are a computer, bro. I swear to God.
And then in his next fight, he wins against Husmar Palhares by TKO in the first round.
You're like one of those guys. I can be like, yell out a random zip code 60201, Peoria, Illinois, just random. When it comes to MMA knowledge, you are kind of ridiculous.
I'm like a weird that kid from what was it? Okay, what's that? Asperger's? I have Asperger's, dude. I must have Asperger's.
I can't think of any kid who has Asperger's on TV.
Mercury Rising. That was
Mercury Rising.
Yes.
You're like Johnny Mnemonic. Belcher Bisping. I have Bisping. I see Bisping eventually getting a title shot. I think he's really good. I think he beat Chael Sonnen in that recent fight they had at UFC on Fox 2, I believe. I think Bisping's a bat out of hell. And I think Belcher is too. That was a great fight against Palhares, but I see Bisping taking.
On Belcher all the way. Most likely a decision, but if he really puts it on Bisping, possibly a finish. I mean, I know Bisping's only been finished once, but I'd love to see it.
Another fight announced, Jamie Varner versus Joe Lauzon. I forgot who dropped out of that fight originally against Joe Lauzon for UFC on Fox 4. Let me bring that up now. Yeah, it was originally going to be Terry Edom versus Joe Lauzon.
That's right.
And
Terry
Lauzon will now face Jamie Worm Varner, Jamie C4 Varner. It's funny how his two nicknames are opposites of each other, the Worm and C4. You're either a tiny little wretched crawling insect thing, or you're a powerful explosive. Yeah. I never thought I'd use the word wretched on this podcast.
Yeah,
I feel like I was born in the 50s. I've been watching too much I Love Lucy. I don't watch that show. What?
You got me.
So, yeah, Varner Lauzon, I don't know who to pick in that one. Varner looked great against Charles Oliveira.
Great is an understatement, bro, and that wasn't Oliveira.
Oh, yeah, it was Barbosa. Sorry, Barbosa. That was not...
He looked really good against Daniel Murgliata.
Yeah, Daniel Murgliata. But yeah, I don't know who to pick in that fight. Varner's looked great recently, but Lauzon obviously has the history.
Yeah, I'm not going to pick against Lauzon after he demolished Gillard. I think he has the tools to make Varner look silly. Varner could come out there like a bat out of hell and continue off of his last win, but I'm going to go Lauzon in this one, submission.
Yeah, Lauzon beat Gillard. His last fight lost Anthony Pettis, but Pettis is one of the tops in the 155. So, yeah, if I had to pick now, I'd pick Lauzon, but thank God I don't have to, because I don't want to, even though I just did. So that makes no sense. But, yeah, this is going to be a very close fight, and I could see either guy winning it. Something. What's his last name, Chris?
CR Bahadarzara.
I think you butchered it as well. So
no, it's Bahadurzada.
I think it's Bahadurzada.
Bahadurzada. There we go. That's it.
Yeah, he was actually on the now defunct MMA at Work a couple weeks ago. Great interview. But yeah, he's out at 149 against Chris Clements. and I believe I forget off the top of my head who replaced. Yeah, he was replaced by Matt Riddle. So yeah, it'll be Chris Clements versus Matt Riddle later this month at UFC 149, which we will get to when that comes up.
What a clusterfuck that fight is, by the way. Original fight was Akiyama versus Alves. Akiyama pulls out. Alves versus Baha. And then Burazada Rada.
And then Alves pulls out, and then Clements replaces him, and now CR pulls out. Riddle replaces him. There's literally been 4 pullouts in this fight, and let's not make any double entendre jokes about that.
It's a revolving door at a hotel, man. It's just guys walking in and walking out. Nope, not going to do it.
I'm going to do this. No, I'm going to do that. But yeah, that was announced a few days ago. A couple more bits of news. The Korean Zombie saying he will defeat Jose Aldo. You know, we were talking about Mark Hominick recently, and Mark Hominick, really, in my opinion, his only 2 recent losses have come to these 2 guys, the Korean Zombie and Jose Aldo. Korean Zombie's looked great in his last fights. I think he deserves a tough shot, and I do honestly think he is Jose Aldo's biggest threat at 145.
Yeah, absolutely. I think definitely. I think
very, very, very. I want to come up with a ding sound effect for every awesome analysis like that.
It is what it is the thing that we should come up with next. We'll say that after every sentence. You know, it is what it is. But
yes, his last 3 fights, the Korean Zombie, all impressive as shit.
What a turnaround. He gets knocked out by George Poop Root by a head kick where he wasn't fully out, and as he fell down, he knocked himself out on his own knee. The only time I've ever seen that. Like, falling down, his chin hits his own knee, and then he's out.
Self-KO.
So after that, I was like...
Yeah, Twister against Garcia, knocked out Hominick, and got a Darce against the Diamond.
Yeah, I thought he was a scrub after that fight. I'm like, this guy is fucking nobody. He couldn't finish Leonard Garcia. He gets knocked out by Rube. And then he just turns heads and has a fantastic run of finishes. Obviously, something, happened with him where he lit a fire under his own ass, and he's amazing. I can't wait to see him versus Aldo. He will be a stiff test.
In the Hominick fight, I really think that was sort of an enigma. I think they fight 10 times and it goes 50-50. A guy winning 7 seconds into a fight by KO, I don't think necessarily proves you're the better fighter. I think it just proves you fought great that night and ran out there and hit a guy on the button, luckily, and put him out. But I think I would love to eventually see a rematch between Chan Sung Jung and Mark Hominick. But yeah, I'd also like to see Chan Sung Jung scrap for the title. And I guess, our last bit of news, Fedor leaves M1, kind of just surprising because they've been so closely linked, and it makes you wonder, has Fedor got another fight in him if he's leaving M1? I guess it's something we only can speculate about because he seemed genuine about his retirement, but him leaving M1 leaves questions up in the air.
Well, here's the deal with Fedor. I have never been on the Fedor train since day one. I think he's overrated. I'm sorry, but he's an overrated guy. I think he beat a lot of cans in his career. Everyone looks at your legacy, and he hasn't beat anyone of note since 2006, 2007. But otherwise, I think he's looked great. Like, he looked great against Hizzo. He was moving like a welterweight. The one thing that I can say is he leaves M1, but there is no open door for him at Zuffa, so I think his career is essentially over.
Yeah, and I think an offer from Zuffa would probably be the only thing that would bring him back. So yeah, that or actually, I'm sorry. Before I lead us out, Chris, what'd you learn today?
I learned today that talking about poop is not good for podcasting, especially when a professional fighter hops on and says he was listening to it. What are we doing?
I learned to check my DMs religiously because I had been having a conversation, just, following each other with the @ with ampersand sign with Hominick. Didn't see that he had DM'd me a different phone number a while ago, so the TweetDeck interface I'm using didn't cater to that, so I got to find a new Twitter interface because I feel absolutely horrible about bothering his family.
You idiot.
You idiot. And he's probably going to come kill me now. But big thanks to Mark Hominick for hopping on so late. It's almost midnight here on the East Coast. Also, big thanks to listeners. You guys are the ones who make the ship sail. And thanks to our co-host Chris for talking about poop and letting us know about his bowel movements.
Yeah, one more thing, Jake. We gone.
We gone.